Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to talk about this DeWALT FLEXVOLT 7¼ inch brushless rear handle worm drive style circular saw. We're going to go over top to bottom. We're going to put it through our test track, so stick with us. All right, you guys, so this right here is DeWALT's FLEXVOLT 7¼ inch brushless rear handle worm drive style circular saw, okay? Model number is DCS577. So I had a good opportunity to use this saw at a job site. Somebody else saw it and they said, wow, that saw is really nice. We're gonna have to definitely get ourselves one of those. It felt like one of the most powerful saws, so we said, hey, we're gonna have to get one, put it on our track and see how it goes, okay? So this saw I have right in front of me is new, but this saw itself has been on the market for a while, probably a couple years or so, but it's been on the market for a while, but this one right here is new. So keep that in mind. This is probably not a good time to say this video is not sponsored. Nobody sent this to us. We purchased it with their own monies, and here it is. All right, so while we're talking about that, let's go ahead and talk about this dust port. So this dust port right here is not included as a part of the saw. No matter if you buy it as a tool only or a kit, it just does not come with it, okay? In order to get this dust port, you have to buy one of these. This is DeWALT DCS577DC. So if you look at the first few nectars numbers, that's pretty much, it says same model number of saw, DC, like dust collection port or something. Not sure what the point of that is, but anyways, you have to buy this separately and it'll cost you roughly around 20 bucks, okay? So if you think about it, it's pretty interesting because the big three tool manufacturers, Milwaukee, DeWalt, Makita, kind of went about this in different ways, right? Makita said, well, you know, you don't really need that dust port. There's no option for it, so there's just no way to deal with that, okay? On the US version, that is, on the EU version and stuff like that, there's options, but for some reason on the US version, not really there. Milwaukee says, hey, we're gonna include both the dust port, the two optional dust ports for you, okay? DeWalt says, well, you know, we're gonna leave it there as an option and you can buy it separately. So anyways, that's what DeWalt's thinking is, but anyways, here it is. We purchased it with a dust port mainly because we're going to be testing a lot of stuff inside. We didn't want to go everywhere. Okay, let's go over some of the marking height and then we'll bring you in closer and take a better look at it. So this tool right here is designed with the blade oriented to the left of the motor and the handle at the rear of the saw for easy line of sight. Has a bevel capacity of 53 degrees, up to 53 degrees, with positive stops at 45 degrees and 22.5 degrees. I will tell you that actually is really nice. Achieves a 2 7/16 inch depth of cut at 90 degrees and 1 7/8 of an inch at 45 degrees. It has an integrated dust blower that kind of blows the line of sight to kind of clear it out, make it nice, easy to see. And it is tool connect ready, meaning it does not have tool connect built in. You have to buy that tool connect option accessory and then install it on here. But the holes allegedly are pre-drilled, okay? It has an electronic brake to help stop the blade, obviously. Uses a durable, high-grade magnesium shoe and an efficient brushless motor. It includes a rafter hook, onboard blade wrench. The RPM speed is 5,800 RPMs. The height of the tool is 8.19 inches, and the tool weighs a whopping 10.87 pounds, okay? The max watts out of the tool, it's generally how DeWalt measures the performance, is 2,400 watts, okay? DeWalt says that the tool is designed for wood cutting, not necessarily for metal cutting, although I do think if you probably put a metal blade on it, it'll probably be fine. And it is running on their 60 volt max platform, which is obviously their FLEXVOLT platform. So with that being said, I'm gonna bring you in closer. We'll take a closer look at it, then we'll put it on the track. All right, so before we get in really close, I'll show you how it looks like with the batteries on it. The handle doesn't seem to get in the way like it did in the Milwaukee one. I'll just show you that real quick. So here is the DeWalt 6 amp hour FLEXVOLT battery, right? No problem. FLEXVOLT battery 9 amp hour. No problem. So let's talk about the business part or business end of this saw, okay? So if you look at this shoe, it's a magnesium base. It does have inch scale built in here. It goes from 0 all the way to about 8, although I don't know how many people are actually going to be using the scale built in here. It also does have a rip guide fence optional port for you to put that in here, or on the back, which is nice because a lot of times you'll see these in the saws, but they'll only be on one side, which is on the front. On this side, you can put it in the front and the back. So if you had like a nice rip guide fence or something, you could probably put it on both, but the bolts are not included on here. Okay. Also on here is this obviously blade guard, pretty standard blade guard. It doesn't catch most of the time, but if you are cutting steep angles, you will kind of see it catching every once in a while, but I feel like almost all the saws seem to do that, so nothing too different or special about this one. Okay. The other thing to look at on here is if you look right here, the arbor, the bolt on the arbor is a hex bolt, meaning it comes with a wrench that you could use with it. And that's nice, mainly because it is not an Allen key, which allows you to get like more torque by using the bolt and the wrench on it instead of just the hex Allen key. So that's nice. Also, you see on here it says tighten this way and loosen that way. So it tells you which way to spin it to get it tight or loose, which is obviously very convenient because a lot of people always forget which direction to turn those things. Okay. So here is the wrench that's included in the kit. It has a DeWALT stamp on it, and the wrench actually works on both, right? So if you look at it here, it's a little bit curved, right? So the hex wrench part of it you could do on the front and the back depending on how you need to do it, right? So if it's curved that way, it's for some reason. If you're doing it this way, it doesn't need to be curved, right? So it does have that here. And the good thing about DeWALT is it does include a place for you to drop that into the saw, unlike the Makita one, which has no place to put that. All right. So other thing to note on here is you see this like rubberized blade guard stop system, so it doesn't click metal on metal. And here is the dust port attachment that I talked about earlier. It's interesting mainly because it doesn't fully close this port off, right? So if you are doing it and you use it without the vac system, it will still come out this way. If you use it with the vac system, most of the dust will be collected this way, but some of it will still escape this way, depending on how great your dust collection system is, right? So anyways, there's that. Moving around to the back of the saw, I'm looking at the back, or it's probably easier to show you this way. So here is the depth adjustment guide lock, right? It's a pretty simple design and it is pretty big lever. So even if you're wearing gloves, you can get it pretty easily, and it does slide up and down pretty nice, okay? The other thing to point out on here is the depth guide is actually really nice, mainly because it's black painted with white gauge markers or whatever you want to call it, and the lever or the pointer or whatever you want to call it is right here at the top. Okay, although I'm not sure how many people are actually using this versus just putting the material and the blade and measuring it that way from the bottom, right? So but it is here, and it does work, seem to work fairly well, at least the one time that I've used it. All right, so moving around to the back of the saw again, here is the handle part of the saw. Pretty standard DeWALT handle. Like if you've used DeWALT tools, here is pretty standard. You're gonna feel pretty common at home. The safety lock guide system, it's gonna be a switch that you can a button that you can press one way or the other. It seems to work very nice. There's no real issue with that. Pretty standard, nothing to whine about. On this other part of the saw, you do have a nice rafter hook that does come with it, okay? And it is a rafter hook that kind of locks in or like sticks this way or this way, okay? So it does not go another way all the way back. No matter what you do with it, it doesn't go all the way back, okay? It's either open rafter hook or closed. In a way, it kind of gets a little bit annoying because I know sometimes people like to hook it all the way back and then hang it that way. But in this case, it does work this way, and it does work on single framing 2x framing lumber or a double stack piece of lumber that way. Okay, here is obviously the motor part of the saw. And on this part, there's really nothing else to it except the spindle lock is right here. The easiest way to generally use that I found is you put your hand through here and then you press the spindle lock this way, okay? But that's usually what we find with that. If you look right here, it does say really nice like DeWALT magnesium base. It's interesting they kind of put that there. I'm not sure if it was really necessary, but hey, that's what they got. The other thing to put on here on the front, here is the bevel system. And the bevel system is pretty nice. It does have positive detents. It's not like the switch you kind of have with the Makita where you kind of like flip it and it stops at 22.5 or whatnot, or 45. But on this one, it's single lever design, same that way. And watch the positive stop system. I'll see if you can catch it on the mic. I'm not sure if that's going to come through the mic, but it does stop it has a detent right there. Obviously, if you're going really fast, you can easily just go over it. But I'll see if the mic can pick up the sound right here. Not sure if it picked it up. Right? So it does have positive detent at 22.5 and 45, and it will bevel all the way up too. Okay, so the interesting thing I found out about this is that if you look right here, there's also another gauge or a scale built in right here. So it's kind of like you get like a double gauge, right? So you get this pointer right here, and then you also can use this pointer right here to figure out where it lines up or where you want it to be. And when it is right there where you want it to be, you just put it there, right? So if you do have to make a lot of 45-degree cuts or 22.5 cuts, you can easily just get to the detent, lock it in real quickly and go. You don't have to be guessing. But that's where you cut with the front part of the saw, okay? So now let's go ahead and talk about the top part of the saw. The top part of the saw, and it's actually really nice because it bevels this way. Top part of the saw, you get a really nice handle. And here is where the blade wrench is stored. Nothing too interesting. The battery fits in pretty easily right here. And this is the 9 amp hour DeWALT FLEXVOLT battery. And it fits in pretty nice. The 12 amp hour obviously fits in here. I don't have a 12 amp hour to show you, but the 9 amp hour fits in just right. But just looking at it, it doesn't look like they're planning to make a battery that's that much bigger, because I mean, it's really not going to fit, right? Only one that would really fit if they made it longer. But if they made it longer, you may have a hard time getting your hand in this handle. All right? So that's the close-up part of the saw. We're going to go ahead and put it on the track to get the numbers. When it runs on the track, we're going to run it with the 6 amp hour battery, and then we'll also run it with a 9 amp hour battery and see what the performance benefit you get with a 9 amp hour battery over the 6. So without too much further ado, let's get to it. So I hope you guys caught those numbers, because those numbers went by really fast. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick recap. We ran the test with the 9 and the 6 amp hour FlexVolt battery. Just to give you quick information, when you run these batteries in a FlexVolt tool, this 9 amp hour battery really drops down to a 3 amp hour battery, and this 6 amp hour battery drops down to a 2 amp hour battery in this tool, because it is a FlexVolt tool. Okay, so make sure you keep that in mind. That's how we notated it in the footage of us cutting it. Okay, so this saw, the DCS577, using the 9 amp hour FlexVolt battery, aka 3 amp hour battery, first run on the double stack performance test comes in at 2.57 seconds. The second run comes in at 3.02 seconds. Third run comes in at 3 seconds, okay? Averaging those 3 runs up, the average comes out to 2.86 seconds. Wow, that's fast, okay? If you think about what you're cutting, that's actually pretty fast. Moving on to the triple stack performance test. Using the 9 amp hour, aka 3 amp hour battery, the first run comes in at 3.36 seconds, second run comes in at 3.49 seconds, third run comes in at 3.49 seconds. Averaging those 3 scores, the score comes out to 3.45 seconds for the triple stack test run, okay? If you get the total performance by averaging or summing up those 2 averages, the total performance of this saw with the DeWALT FLEXVOLT 9 amp hour battery, aka 3 amp hour battery in this tool, comes to a whopping 6.31 seconds. Wow, that's fast if you consider what it just cut through and pretty much the depth of cut and all that fun stuff. So that takes the first place on the leaderboard, knocking out the Milwaukee M18 fuel with a high output battery rear handle saw to second place, okay? That one comes in at 8.53 seconds. Okay, we're going to talk about that more in a second. So the other thing we did in this test was we ran it with the FLEXVOLT 6 amp hour battery. Okay, so with the 2 amp hour battery in the tool, the first run of the double stack performance test comes in at 3.1, second run comes in at 3.13, third run comes in at 3.13, averaging those 3 scores comes in at 3.12. Okay. Moving on to the triple stack performance test, the first run comes in at 4.48, second run comes in at 4.56, third run comes in at 4.58. Averaging those 3 runs comes in at 4.54. There we go. So getting the total performance number of those runs comes in at 7.66 seconds. That's really fast with the 2 amp hour battery, okay? So that actually takes second place on our leaderboard, right behind only the 9 amp hour battery, okay? The FLEXVOLT 9 amp hour battery. So the third place, the Milwaukee Fuel rear handle saw with the high output battery actually now drops to third place or whatnot with a score of 8.53, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about those 2 saws in general for a second, okay? So the DeWALT FLEXVOLT tool obviously is a FLEXVOLT tool, right? So it runs at 60 volts max, aka 54 volts, right? So everyone's gonna say, all the Milwaukee fans and stuff are gonna say, well, it's not fair, it's running such a higher voltage, right? Technically, maybe not, it all depends, right? Milwaukee's kind of committed to the M18 platform, so they've done a lot with the M18 platform, okay? So in order to generate power, you have to have, or power is really a function of current and voltage, okay? So current multiplied by voltage, you get watts, right? So in order to generate a lot of power, which we allegedly measure in watts, you need current and voltage. So the FLEXVOLT tool operates at, let's just say 54 volts, okay? 54 volts, in order to generate the same amount of power, you don't need as much current, right? The Milwaukee one operates at M18 or 18 volts. So in order to generate the same amount of power, you would need more current, right? So that's why the high output batteries, or the batteries on the M18s, actually heat up a lot faster, mainly because they're trying to push more current. As a battery discharges a lot more current faster, it heats up, okay? That's just how it works. So in order to keep up or generate as much power as they did with that saw, the batteries have to put out a lot of current. That's kind of why they kind of went down the marketing part of high output batteries, right? That's what it really does. So considering that the Milwaukee is an M18 tool, an 18 volt tool, it has to put out a lot of current to generate close to the same amount of wattage that this FLEXVOLT saw does at 54 volts, okay? So with that being said, in general, if everything is equal, higher voltage allows you to be more efficient, right? Because the more, you don't have to push as much current. We're getting too technical here, but a lot of resistance and pushing amps and heating up all comes into play. But with higher voltage, generally you can push less current to get the same amount of power. And that's generally why I would consider that the FLEXVOLT tool is a better tool in terms of you can run longer with certain things, right? So the thing you want to compare when you're talking about battery packs, don't compare the voltage, that's not important, right? You want to compare the watt hours, right? So this 9 amp hour FLEXVOLT battery, which is DCB906, has a watt hours of 180 watt hours, okay? So make sure you keep that in mind. This 6 amp hour battery, which is really a 2 amp hour FLEXVOLT battery, comes in at 120 watt hours, okay? So look at your M18 battery and try to figure out what the watt hours is. That's generally how you're going to be able to figure out how much power does this battery hold, right? Anyways, we just went off on a tangent. Let's bring it back to the saw. So obviously this is a great saw, right? We did another test. Let's go ahead and show up the footage here. But on this second test, we ran it pretty slow, pretty comfortably, and we taped up the hole on the dust collection port such that it can only come through, or the suction only comes through the dust collection port, okay? We thought maybe if we taped it up and only directed it one way, it would allow it to collect more dust, right? So if you, as you can tell from the footage, it looks like it collected a little bit more. It seems better. I'm not sure how well it's going to come out, but to the user, it definitely seems better. A lot less dust is being kicked back in the user's face, coming this way or whatnot. So if you're going to be if you're going to be using this tool with a dust collection system, I'll definitely encourage you to close out the port. That way, it only goes that way. So, closing this video out. Obviously, this is now the fastest cutting saw we have on the leaderboard. Is there a saw on the market that's currently faster than this? I don't know. We're gonna have to find out. I'm not even sure if some of the corded saws are gonna be faster than that, okay? But we're gonna have to find that out some other day. So, is this the fastest saw? Yes. Is this the best saw? I don't know. Best is so subjective, right? As I always tell you in every video, just because it's the fastest tool doesn't mean it's the best tool. If you're only going by performance, cutting performance, then probably it's going to be the best tool. But the best tool is really whatever you have available to you to get the job done well, right? If you have the M18 rear handle saw, probably shouldn't go out and buy this tool, right? Just to get better like cutting performance, because we're talking about seconds. And sure, it could probably add up to like minutes or teens of minutes throughout the day. But hey, if you're working that way, then so be it. Like I said, it's a great tool. It's on the DeWALT FLEXVOLT platform. If you're in the DeWALT lineup, obviously this is the tool to get. I know they have a newer side winder, so I think it's like DCS578 or something like that. We'll have to take a look at that one day sometime in the near future. So I hope this video helped you guys out and you guys had a lot of fun and been informative and things like that. If you guys like these types of videos, let me know and we'll try to get some more of this type of stuff into it. But until then, take care and I'll see you guys next time.